Vietnam, a land of diversity, from Hạ Long Bay to the Mekong to the steppe rice fields of the mountains. A diverse land lush with culture and ancient in its history. A history that spans over 3,000 years, beginning with the legendary Hậu dynasty. A history rivaling the dragon to the north. From its very beginnings, women held a respected position in society, originating from the veneration of O Cơ, the mother of all Vietnam. According to the myth, O Cơ was a young and beautiful fairy that lived high in the mountains of Vietnam. Skilled in medicine and healing, and possessing a kind heart, she traveled the lands to heal the afflicted. On one of these trips, a monster arose, and allured by her benign beauty, pursued her. Terrified, O Cơ turned into a crane and fled. Seeing her plight, the honorable king and dragon of the sea, Lạc Long Quân, killed the monster. When O Cơ turned back into a human and saw the Dragon King, she instantly fell in love with him. With him she bore 100 children, communally called Bạch Việt, which hatched from eggs. Despite their love, the two could not be together, as she belonged to the mountains and he to the sea. Sadly, they returned to their homes, each taking with them 50 children. O Cơ chose to settle in Vietnam, a land that hugs the rest of Asia, yet was right at the border of the ocean, so as to be as close to the Dragon King as possible. From her 50 children, 50 strong male leaders were born, later to become the powerful Hùng Kings, the great ancestors of the Vietnamese people. Unaffected by physical oppressions such as foot binding, and privileged with landholding rights, women in Vietnam lived in a land of freedom. Rice fields, rivers, and bamboo bridges are all picturesque symbols of this country, ancient in its history, traditions, and culture, yet modern and progressive in its disposition. But nothing could be more evocative of the beauty, grace, as well as the strength and unity of Vietnam than the Vietnamese woman wearing the traditional dress, the áo dài. The áo dài has long been considered a symbol of femininity, modesty, and purity, a symbol of the beauty and grace of the archetypal Vietnamese female. The word áo dài literally means long shirt, and the áo dài itself consists of a fitted tunic split into one front and one back panel, worn over loose-fitting, ankle-reaching pants. Its origins goes back as far as the history of Vietnam spans, transforming from the four-paneled áo tứ thân to the five-paneled áo ngũ thân, and finally into the two-paneled áo dài we are familiar with today. In the 14th century, a woman's attire consisted of a skirt, a váy, and a halter top, an áo yếm, with a blouse sometimes worn over. The blouse or overcoat slowly developed into the long four-paneled áo tứ thân. The áo ngũ thân is composed of two panels in the front sewn together and two in the back also sewn together, which made it appear to have only two flaps. However, a baby flap is hidden underneath the main front panel, which is the fifth panel. During the Ming Dynasty occupation of Vietnam from 1407 to 1428, Emperor Minh Mạng banned the váy of the áo ngũ thân entirely as a form of resistance from the Chinese. The váy continued to be denounced during the Lê Dynasty in Vietnam from 1428 to 1788, and under Lord Vũ Vương of the Nguyen Dynasty, a decree was issued that insisted all men and women wear this early version of the áo dài. The new pantaloons and long tunic of the áo ngũ thân became a symbol of political and cultural resistance from the Ming. when the powerful government was able to effectively repel the French, and then once again the Americans, the alzai worn in the north, Mien Bắc, in the center, Mien Trung, and in the south, Mien Nam, remained a national costume of an eternal Vietnam, unified in the purpose of revolution. Today, young female students continue to wear pure white alzai as a symbol of their purity, innocence, and virginity. The alzai continues to be worn throughout Vietnam as a school uniform as a means of harmonizing its youth, growing up and facing a modern future, but still embodying and preserving ancient cultures in their dress. The alzai represents female propriety, modesty, caution, and refined manners. In his novel Saigon, Anthony Gray expresses a fondness for the alzai, both demure and provocative. Women seemed not to walk, but to float gently between the tamarinds on the evening breeze. Dressed in the alzai, the women of Vietnam are both strong and still uphold ancient traditions, reverence of the emperor, piety and honoring of one's parents, and allegiance to one's nation and loyalty to one's husband. When women are married, they wear darker or richer colored alzai in deep maroon, green, or blue, generally over black or white pants. Senior women often wear darker colored alzai, usually made of velvet, for the tunic as opposed to silk that younger women wear. In wedding ceremonies, the bride often wears a red alzai, a lucky color for prosperity and happiness, with an additional cloak called an áo meng phu. Often, a wide-brimmed headpiece called a khăn đống is worn as an accessory. The groom also wears an alzai for the ceremony called an áo gấm, usually in blue, and also wears a khăn đống. The traditional Vietnamese wedding is a particularly important milestone for young women and a keystone in Vietnamese tradition. Before the actual wedding, the union of the couple begins with the betrothal ceremony, or lễ ăn hỏi, literally the offering of gifts and asking of permission. During this ceremony, the groom and his family visit the bride's family with gifts, including teas, cakes, fruits, and wines, and especially chow gao, betel leaves, and nuts, as well as money. By completing this ritual, the groom shows his respect for the bride and for her family, as well as his capability to provide for her. When an agreement is reached between the two families, the wedding date is set. During the wedding ceremonies called lễ cưới, once again the groom's family goes to the bride's house to ask permission to take the bride back to his house. The couple pray to their ancestors' altars to guide, protect, and sanctify their marriage. They offer tea to their parents and in-laws as an expression of filial piety. During the parade back to the groom's house, the bride is visible to the public as an equal to her husband and as a proclamation to the neighbors of the happy union. It is a spectacular and colorful affair with lots of music and food. Despite marrying and bearing children, a Vietnamese woman still enjoys her status as a strong working woman, free to move where she wants. She is not bound to her home, although she is loyal to it, loyal to her husband, her family, and her nation. Perhaps even more picturesque of Vietnam is the image of the working mother in her alzai caring for her children. Nowadays, there are numerous fashionable variations of the dress, including changes in the neckline, which comes in the traditional high collar or the more modern scoop neck. Sleeve and panel lengths now range from just below the knee to elaborately long panels reaching as long as 5 meters, mostly for weddings or magazine covers. Women are also bolder in their color, fabric, and print choice, even opting for brighter, bolder, and stronger patterns. On September 10, 1995, at the Miss International pageant in Tokyo, Miss Vietnam, Trương Quỳnh Mai, won the prize for Best National Costume in her beautiful brocaded alzai. The Vietnamese fashion magazine Chiang Che called the Ao Dai a symbol of Vietnam's national soul, recognized and honored in front of thousands of international spectators. And Chuang Kinh Mai's victory was also a victory for the Ao Dai, for Vietnam itself. Through numerous painful trials and tribulations of war and transnational migration, the Ao Dai remains a constant reminder of a peaceful way of life, a Vietnamese way of life. As Vietnam faces modernity, with cars and motorcycles teeming the streets, and the younger, faster-paced pop culture developing, the Ao Dai continues to embody her ancient traditions, a tradition that Vietnamese women, in their way of dress and method of living, are able to preserve for future generations of Vietnamese and for all the world to see.
Ngát hương không khoe sắc màu, ngàn đóa hoa đang rực rỡ không sánh bằng. Nhẹ nhàng tung bay tà áo dài, em phụ nữ Việt, đánh lên bao dạng người người phương Đông.